Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of our podcast. And I know we've been gone for a while now, but we've come back with like better improvements. As you can see, we've switched on our videos this time for better audience interaction. And now, coming to our topic today. So, due to the recent pandemic, the world suddenly seemed to completely stop. And there were lockdowns that were imposed around the world, except the United States. And people weren't exactly allowed to go outside even after these restrictions were kind of weakened, especially where we're living, still, many people haven't gone out. And as a personal example, I haven't gone to a mall for like a whole year now. And Raghav, I don't think you've been anywhere as well,
I've
right?
I've left my house like 3 times since March, man. It's insane.
Yeah, exactly. So you just see there are many people, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people who are listening and watching today haven't been outside as much. And this pandemic as such doesn't exactly impact only us common people, but it also impacts a lot of industries. And therefore, today we decided to actually talk about one of these industries which has been affected by COVID, and that is the movie industry. So,
Okay,
right now, the movie industry, yeah, sorry,
yeah. So
go on.
before we talk about movie industries as a whole, just like looking at the case of COVID right now, dude, USA is popping out like 200,000 cases daily, bro. It's insane. They're whipping it out like it's nothing,
That's
man.
nobody's,
They have like stock graph also on Google. Yeah,
nobody's, yeah.
Corona is up today. Corona is down. Yeah. So
Oh, wait, yeah, it's like the stock market.
yeah,
Correct.
so let's get back to topic. So firstly, let's look at what's happening right now, yeah, in terms of how it's affecting movie watchers. A lot of things we're seeing is movies are being delayed, and like we see movies are being released on HBO Max. Most of the Warner Brother movies, they're going to be premiering for the first time on streaming platforms instead of in the theater itself, which is insane to think about. A lot of the Warner Brother movies are doing this, and I believe like some of the Marvel movies might also end up doing this. I'm not too sure. I haven't researched about that.
Yeah, so you're right. It's actually a very new and kind of innovative thing. As for those of you who've watched us from the beginning, we actually talked about streaming platforms in our second episode, I think, when we were talking about TV shows. And at that point of time, both of us didn't think that, streaming platforms would reach this amount of popularity that movies start getting released on here. And as you said, HBO Max is using this. HBO is using their streaming platform to release. Sorry, Warner Brothers is using the streaming platform to release any type of new movies that are coming out. And Amazon Prime, actually, for those of you who use it, there are not a lot of people who use Amazon Prime because of Netflix dominance. But for those of you who have it, like the knockoff Netflix, uh, Amazon Prime has been releasing a lot of movies, Bollywood movies. Now, I know a lot of us don't watch Bollywood movies, but they have been releasing, and this is like a completely like different and new approach to releasing movies. And as you said, yeah, a lot of movies will be released, and a lot of movies were actually also delayed during this time, right? I can name about 15 movies off the top of my head. Do you know any? Like, I know
Uh,
about Black Widow,
Black Widow,
Avatar.
the Batman movie is delayed. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly. So
Bro,
all of these
the
movies
funny thing
have
about
been
Avatar
delayed.
is, yeah, this isn't the first time it's been delayed. Its original release
Yeah,
date was
facts.
2014.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro, it's been delayed like 9 times. I'm pretty sure.
Whoa.
James Cameron needs to hurry up, man. I don't know what that guy's doing.
Yeah, he's got a. I didn't know that. I thought it was like set to release in 2020 or something. I wasn't aware of it being released in
It's
2014.
insane.
Yeah,
It was
that's a
supposed to be 2014 and the sequel 1 year later, and they just delayed it by like 6 years, bro. It's nuts.
holy crap. But it's now being released in like 2021, or they're saying even 2022. And honestly, I'm fine with the wait. But there are a lot of movies, as I said, Black Widow, which was anticipated to come out in March or May, and it's been delayed till like next year. And that brings me to another thing about, I think we were talking about it, the butterfly effect, kind of ripple effect, which surrounds all these movies coming out at the same time. Because once this COVID pandemic restriction is weakened and lifted, there are going to be a lot of movies which are going to be pending to be released. And that's when all these like big companies will have to decide, okay, who's going to go first, because let's say DC, Marvel, all these are like Black Adam, Batman, Black Widow, now they're from different companies. There's going to be a lot of fighting between what's going to actually come out first. That's what I'm waiting to see. But yeah, let's see what happens here.
Now,
No, and
one of the
even
questions I
this
want to
movie,
ask
what do you
you,
say, which came out? Okay,
when we
go
talk
on.
about how it's going to affect movie watchers, right? Uh, do you think that once this pandemic is over, people will still consider going to the theater? Because movie companies, after they, like, obviously they'll still be releasing, I believe, in the cinema after the pandemic is over, because they know that people who want to watch movies right when they come out are still going to go. They'll be able to make movies. But I think personally a lot more people are going to start going more towards the streaming platforms, because streaming platforms as a whole, they're going to gain a lot more money. And already we saw so many Netflix originals coming out. We're going to see a lot more of that, especially in TV shows and in movies. So what's your take on that, how it's going to affect movie watchers in the future after the pandemic is over?
See, I think like the pandemic kind of opened the eyes of many companies as well. As I said before, Netflix and all these streaming platforms were mainly for, let's say, their original TV shows, and sometimes they had a few movies which weren't exactly hits. I wouldn't call it hits. Because like there were some really wacky rom-coms that were coming out that time, which is only suitable for a particular audience. But yeah, you're right. Like that way, like people would doubt. Let's say if it's also up to the what do you say movie company, right? If they want to release it on the streaming platforms, I agree that yeah they can make more money, but I think there's a whole different, let's say, atmosphere when you actually go to the cinema hall and like watch it in a huge screen with Dolby Max. You buy popcorn. So I think mainly people would go to a cinema. I don't even think many people go to the cinema just for watching a movie. There are a lot of other things to it, like socializing and all of that. So the whole atmosphere that it creates would probably, I'd say, be a overall better experience than actually sitting at home and watching a movie. But obviously, it's a matter of convenience. If I want to stay at home and watch it, sure, go ahead. But if it were up to me, I'd say even if they continue to release movies in the cinema and like show it, it'd still be, I think, good enough for the people releasing the movie, and people would go to watch it because it's about the atmosphere at the end of the day, I think. Uh, yeah, that's my take on it. Now, one more thing, like while we're on the process of releasing movies and making movies, one other thing that will change is how these movies will be filmed and how it will affect the movie makers. So right now, as we've talked about the movie watchers, there's also another party involved, which is the movie makers. And I was reading this article on, I think, World Economic Forum, sorry, we Forum. You guys can also check out the article. And it was talking about how, because of the pandemic, there's going to be a difference in how movies are filmed. As a whole, the production, the directing, the cast, everything's going to change. And one of the main reasons is because of this pandemic. So there are a lot of companies like Warner Brothers and even Marvel, I think, or Disney, who have to invest money into the security and safety of their cast and crew. Uh, and one more thing is that, Raghav, don't you think that now the demand for other jobs would increase because the use of CGI and green screen would also increase, right? So there would obviously
Yeah,
be an
so we're
increase
gonna
in
see more on the
that
tech
job
side, more
segment.
on the editing side, more of like what we like more like video editors, and as you mentioned, CGI. A lot of the demand for that is gonna increase a lot, I'm pretty sure, moving forward at least. Even after the pandemic is over, currently also they'll need much more manpower on that side at least, rather than more on what we see visually,
Because it,
what's recorded straight up.
because now like mobility there'll be mobility restrictions and people won't be exactly allowed, like, okay, I want you to imagine a scenario where you want to film a movie, right? During in the middle of a pandemic. Now you're not going to be allowed to go to Paris, sitting in wherever you're sitting. We're not going to reveal locations, although everybody knows, but like sitting wherever you are, if you want to go abroad, that won't be allowed. And if you want to make the background as realistic as possible, you need the green screen, CGI, everything. which will culminate into making it look real. So yeah, I think there's going to be a huge increase in that sector of the IT guys. So if there's anybody, I think who thought it won't be there, like it will be there now.
You don't want
Uh,
it to look like those 1970 Bollywood movie music videos where, like, they're running across the field.
yeah. I'm imagining that now. It's in my head, bro. Man, all
But
right, you didn't have to put that. But see, that's the thing. Their background was actually beautiful. Like I was focusing on the background more than the actual people running on the fields. So, like, that's a whole different scenario.
my bad,
That's
bro.
like the background was making it look lively. No, no, no. Now imagine like a trash background. Like, I wouldn't watch that music video or movie at all.
That's true, bro. So, like, I think moving forward, eventually, at least the movie making process, it won't be affected as much as the movie watching experience, at least, because these companies are going to realize that there's a lot more money you can make easily, at least, uh, from streaming platforms, right? It's much more accessible. More people are going to be likely to watch it. But I still think eventually, after the pandemic is over, people are still going to go to the cinema because it's all about the experience, right? You're going there with your friends to watch Endgame for the first time as soon as it comes out, to avoid all spoilers, right? It's all about that experience of watching a movie at the end of the day.
But one of the like perfect examples, I just remembered this for why the cinema thing might, at this point of time, Tenet, right? The movie
Yeah,
which was
it
released.
was a huge flop, dude.
It was already delayed. It was a huge flop, but the thing is, the flop wasn't because of any flaw in or any flaw in their acting or directing or production, right? The flaw was the time it was released. If you think about it, I mean, uh,
I mean, it's
obviously, it
Christopher
doesn't
Nolan,
matter as
Robert
much.
Pattinson. It's meant for success, right? Even the main actor himself was in like many amazing movies. I think he was in the Black Klansman also, which was an amazingly well made movie. But the whole timing of it was wrong, and Christopher Nolan pushed for it to be in theaters, right? Which I think was a huge mistake. At least if he was going to be pushing for it to be in theaters, he should have also released it on streaming platforms at the same time, so people would watch it, or at least like a while later. Because I mean, we're in a pandemic, dude. Like, no one wants to go to the cinema and
Exactly.
watch Tenet, right? As good of
Everybody's
a
gonna
movie
be
it
like,
is.
Tenet, I have to watch this. I have to, and they're not gonna risk getting COVID because of its effects and symptoms. So yeah, that was like the best example we can give of a movie that was released in during the pandemic and it flopped. And that's one of the reasons why I think all these other companies are smart enough to delay their big box office movies like Black Widow and Black Adam, which they know will make money if they time it right. That's an example I remembered.
Because, like, no matter how good Christopher Nolan is at acting, no matter how much of a genius he is, no matter how good looking Robert Pattinson is, no one wants to risk their life, right? Just to go watch that movie, which is gonna come out in like a year on streaming services anyway.
Exactly. I'd rather stay home and watch it a bit late than go to a cinema hall and like risk getting exposed to virus.
Yeah.
Yeah, precisely.